And we do want to make this clear as we get into the final hour of the program. We're not talking in this next topic that we'll talk about, Chris. This is not political. We're just talking about the circumstances and the situation in front of us. We want people to understand that, right? We're not getting into a political conversation. That's not what it is.
Right. But you were interested in talking about this Brittney Griner situation. So what for those everybody knows.
I want Rob G to come in first. Let's lay it out on the table and then we could talk about it. Cuz I do have thoughts on it, and I think it's too easy for people to just well, if this was so and so, they'd be home by now. Well, if this was so and so, the president would have acted. If this was so and so, I just think there's a lot of things going on here, Chris, that I think people aren't being honest with. Is that fair? That's the way I feel. Like,
all right, go ahead, Rob G.
Right. So if anyone doesn't know by now, hopefully
Yes.
you do, but if you don't, WNBA star Brittney Griner is being held in a Russian jail. It's been there for several months now after she was caught trying to bring hashish oil through the airport. And so
hashish oil, Rob G, have you ever had any? What is that?
I have not.
Chris, have you had hashish oil?
No, I heard of hashish. It's something for weed, isn't it?
Basically.
Yeah.
Is it?
Basically.
I don't know. I'm not a weed
You had never
guy.
heard of it?
I might have heard of it, but I don't know what it's for. What is that? Do you smoke it? Do you put it in a
Hashish
pipe?
was like hash.
Is it? Okay, go
it's
ahead.
it's like a form of marijuana, right? Rob G?
Yeah, basically.
Alex? It's
basically.
it's
Alex,
weed.
you would know, right? You're a connoisseur.
And it's illegal in Russia.
It is illegal.
Okay.
And especially if you're transporting it in your luggage, it's
Right.
even worse.
Right.
Okay.
But in any event, she was caught. She's been held in jail, awaiting trial. She had her trial today, and she pled guilty to the drug charges that were brought forth against her.
Ask for leniency, correct?
Right,
For the drug,
correct.
yeah.
She said it was not intentional. She did not intend to try to sneak in any hashish oil. It just, it was an accident. In any event, she faces up to 10 years in prison if convicted of large-scale transportation of drugs in Russia. Now, because she's been there and this has kind of been drawn out, obviously if this happened in the United States, she probably would have got a fine. It would have been over the weekend, but this is not the United States. So it's brought up a lot of conversation surrounding her and her freedoms and what, if anything, the United States government is doing to get her out. And it led to, as Rob, you mentioned, her coach in the WNBA saying that if this was LeBron James, he'd already be out of the Russian jails.
Right.
And Rob Parker, you got a problem with that?
Yeah, I just do, because I think that there's a lot of things at play, especially the way Russia feels about us. Do people understand there's a war that they have with Ukraine, and the United States has taken some very heavy sanctions against Russia?
Right.
Do we know that, Chris?
And we're aiding Ukraine.
Yes,
We're
and
getting weapons and stuff.
and that U.S. businesses are pulling out of Russia, Chris, left and right. Starbucks, we're gone. We're not coming back. McDonald's paid off workers and, gave them a severance package. This is, there's been wars before and people didn't pull out like this, right? Companies. Where companies just kind of let it, go on or whatever, and they're pulling out like never before. So Russia's been damaged by the United States financially from this war. And I'm just saying, I don't know for sure LeBron would have been out that weekend, Chris. I don't know, because of where we are with the relationship with Russia currently. That's all.
It's interesting, Rob. First of all, let me say this. I do feel for Brittney Griner.
Sure.
It's very unfortunate that something that, wouldn't, like Rob G said, wouldn't be a big deal here in America. It's a big deal there. And when you're in a foreign country.
You just said it, Chris. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm sorry. You're in a foreign country. You got to abide by their laws.
Chris,
we saw it a couple years ago with Lonzo Ball.
Yes.
Well, no, not LiAngelo Ball.
LiAngelo Ball, right.
And a couple of the guys from UCLA. Fortunately, they got out, after, what were they, a couple weeks, I believe, or a few days. But, you're under the authority of that government, unfortunately.
We can't just go in, Chris, and impose what we want to do. We can't.
It's unfortunate. And it's interesting, Rob, because, well, let me address your LeBron thing.
Yeah.
If it were LeBron James, do I think he would be out? I think there's a good chance because of who he is and how big he is. But you're right. I can't say that with certainty. It really depends on what Russia wants to do.
Right.
And Joe Biden and America's not going to strong arm Russia. America does not want a war with Russia. You can see that when they attacked the Ukraine. And so I think LeBron would get out. But obviously the coach's implication, I think, was that this is a sex thing, gender thing, right? As a male. But Rob, I think as much as I think LeBron might be home by now, I also think I have almost as strong a feeling that maybe a Serena Williams would be home right now too.
Yeah,
you're talking level of celebrity, and Brittney Griner, while she is a star in the WNBA, in the grand scheme, she's not like a national celebrity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
there are other men over there. If she gets released, the talk is that she'll be released with another American prisoner. He's a male, Rob, and he's been there since December of 2018.
Right.
They just released a male. Remember, they released some a couple of months ago. One of them was a man who'd been there about 2 years. So I don't think, and they're also, Rob, was she over there, Rob G, for basketball?
I think she was. Yeah, she plays basketball over there.
I heard one woman, I can't remember who it was on television, say that if the women in the WNBA were paid what the men in the NBA were paid, she wouldn't have to go play in Russia to make her money.
Well,
I mean, can we stop it? Do we understand how the economics of these leagues work?
You know what somebody should have asked her,
The
Chris?
WNBA doesn't get paid the money that the WNBA or the NBA gets paid, not because of sexism, because the WNBA doesn't generate even a fraction of the money that the NBA makes. The NBA players make 50% roughly of what the league generates. And if you give the WNBA players, I don't know what the breakdown is, but let's say they make 50% of what their league generates. It's not going to be close. That's not sexism. If you want to blame America for liking the NBA more than the WNBA and call that sexism, I guess you can have at it.
But my argument has always been there are more women than men in this country, Chris. The WNBA, nobody's stopping women from going to the game or taking their boyfriends or husband. I'm just saying, like, if you want to do that, that's all I'm saying. Like, you could buy, the women could be buying tickets. Chris, if these arenas were filled and the TV ratings were good, they would generate money. And it would be just like. And in soccer, the women weren't getting paid what they were supposed to, right? They proved that they had better ratings, Chris. They were bringing in more money. And guess what? They're now making on par with the men. That was
they
sexism.
Were doing better, and they should have been making more money. But, Rob, you can't just say, well, we put in just as much work as you know, the Carolina or the Charlotte Hornets. And the Philadelphia 76, we put in just as much as the males. We're doing the same thing. We're putting our bodies at risk. You and I are putting as much work in as Colin Cowherd.
And we're not making what he makes.
We getting as much?
No.
So it is what it is. It's what your show generates ratings in this regard. You know, so I'm just saying, like, it's kind of to your point, Rob. People are just running off saying stuff. And Russia has said, the administrators in Russia have said, look, all of this noise that America's making about the Brittney Griner, you see people going on TV saying, they're like, that's not helping. That's not helping. And so it's different over there. You might be able to shame and cancel culture and politically correctness, get
they
people
don't care
to do
about
what you
that.
want. They ain't worried about that in Russia.
And you remember, you or Rob G, you might both remember this. There was a kid, Chris, who spray painted or did something over in China or Thailand or something, And I think this is back when
Oh,
Bill
yeah.
Clinton was president.
Was
And you
it
remember
Singapore?
Singapore,
And they were
Chris?
gonna
And you
get
know how
whipped.
clean it is. And he got caned. Do you
Caned,
remember
right.
that?
Yep.
He got publicly caned, and they wanted Bill Clinton to try to step in. And they were like, dude, you went to a foreign country
Right.
and you broke their law.
You acted up, right?
And there's
what are we
nothing
supposed to do?
Nothing that the United States can do. And Brittney Griner, you said it. She's a star in the WNBA. Unfortunately, that hashish was in her luggage or whatever. It's not like she's saying
She probably didn't know it was.
it was planted.
against the
She's
law
saying
over there.
because she pleaded guilty that
Right.
it was in there. It was unintentional, but it was there. And I don't know. There's a show called. There's some sort of show about drug use or having drugs and getting busted in foreign countries. I don't. Alex, do you know that show? It's like on A&E or something like. But it's a show.
Okay.
And Chris, people are in rude awakenings. I remember being on a plane going to Thailand or going to Singapore or something, and I remember the flight attendant. We're about to land. I want to say Singapore, and she said, "If you have any drugs or any drug paraphernalia on you, you better get rid of them because when we land,
Right.
there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
We can't protect you.
We cannot protect you, and you better not have anything on you." That was the announcement.
Look, and like Rob, we said from the get-go, we feel for Brittney Griner.
Yes, this is not
we
political.
do think it's
either.
unfortunate, and we'll keep her in our prayers to get home. I mean, it's got to be terrifying over there. For something, again, over here it wouldn't be a big deal. And I think all of us as Americans don't really think it's a big deal. But she's in a different country. She's in a foreign country. You have to move by their rules and their laws. And hopefully this works out and she can get home soon. But I guess one of the lessons, Rob, is when you travel, know where you're at and know if you have anything or you're doing anything that it might be fine in America, but if it's iffy, just check and make sure you're in line with the laws of that country because it is what it is.
And Chris, I've been on all 7 continents. I've traveled extensively around the world.
Yep.
And I don't play any of that. Like you have to be very careful when you're abroad because the laws are different. And if you're not, if you don't take care of what you need to, you could be in trouble.
Yeah. All right. 877-99 on Fox, 877-996-6369. Do you agree with the notion that if LeBron James was in Brittney Griner's position, he'd already be out of jail? I'm leaning that way fairly strongly, but I can't say with certainty because it's not up to Joe Biden. It's up to Russia.